I don't know about this one, but we'll see. What's up, music fans? My name is Jackson. Today I'm going to discuss 10 songs that really, I feel like, changed my perspective on life. Now, let me preface this by saying that a lot of these quote unquote life changing things aren't going to be like, oh man, my entire personality just flipped on its head because of this or that. It's going to be more so little themes and concepts that made me realize things about different groups of people, about the artist rapping them, or just kind of life in general and sort of the struggles that come with different facets of it that really just I can't understand. And that to me has been a big goal of my channel so far, is really advocating for the fact that I can't relate to a lot of these artists. I can't understand them, but I can feel what they're feeling through their lyrics, through their pain. And that's what's so great about music. And I hope to not gatekeep anything or criticize people for having a different walk of life, because at the end of the day, that's what hip hop is about, making something from nothing and sharing that with people. And so to come with that, I've heard a lot of songs that have really made me feel like I got something from it, and that's what makes a great song or album to me. So I picked 10 songs today that I really feel like I got something from, and I replay them frequently to remind me of this lesson that I learned. And I want to talk about these little anecdotes with you guys. So I have my top 10 and I have a couple honorable mentions. But before I get into that, I want to give my shameless call to action. If this is the kind of content you want to see, let me know in the comments, because I really enjoy making lists like this. And I'd really appreciate if you guys subscribe, because that's the thing that's motivating me the most to make these videos. So if you want to support me and just be a part of this community, I'd really appreciate if you would just add 1 to that number for me. And also check in the description. I'd love for you to join my Discord. But without further ado, let's get into the top 10 hip hop songs that I feel like changed my perspective on life. I'm going to put a disclaimer because I feel like I'm going to get a lot of comments about this. This is going to be primarily a hip hop list because I grew up listening to hip hop. Hip hop is what I hear 90% of the time, and hip hop is the music that I really enjoy listening to. So if you're going to hate on me for picking, I think 8 out of 10 of these songs are hip hop songs, then you can just click off now because I don't want to hear it. Hip hop is about struggle. Hip hop is about pain. Hip hop is about bringing a perspective to white privileged kids like me that can't understand it, so that we can truly, respect these people. So that's all I had to say about that. Let's just get into the video. Now I have 3 honorable mentions, but I'm going to be honest. After looking at this for a couple minutes, I'm going to add a number 11. My honorable mentions are going to be Phoenix by A$AP Rocky and Soundtrack to My Life by Kid Cudi. With Phoenix, I really feel like Rocky is presenting a trap. It's almost as if you can't be honest, but you can't lie either, because you're still going to be scrutinized, you're still going to be crucified as Jesus was, which is one of his lyrics. Just because you live, because you're famous, because you have a reputation, it doesn't matter what that reputation is, you're going to get punished for it. And it's a really creative way to present this really just overused theme of fame isn't all you want it to be. And with Soundtrack to My Life, I feel like I had to include Cudi in here somewhere, and I just think that while Soundtrack to My Life is my favorite Kid Cudi song, I think it's because it's one of his most meaningful. He's pouring out his emotions on a song and he can't articulate them very well, which is what makes Cudi so compelling. He sounds like the monster under your bed, and he just wants you to be his friend, but he doesn't know how to convey that. And he sounds so heartbroken, he sounds so desperate, and I think that alone just really made me fall in love with Cudi. So now I had this one as an honorable mention, but again, like I said, I'm making this a number 11, and that's going to be The Story of OJ by Jay-Z. Kind of like with Phoenix, Jay-Z is promoting a trap here. He's presenting the scenario to you, and that's simply being black. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are, it doesn't matter what role you have, you're still just labeled as a black person. That's it. You get treated the same as every other black person, and that's as lesser. And that's really sad. And I feel like for me, who just, again, can't relate to being treated that way, you don't really get that through your head in just normal racism discussions. So having Jay lay it out for you in such a simple way was really, really enlightening. And he's so cold the way he delivers it. Just, it's so matter of fact, so honest, and just so it's just really tragic. And I feel like in the past year we've at least made 1 or 2 steps towards changing that, but we've got a long way to go, and I'm glad that Jay is bringing that concept to the table. Number 10, I'm looking at my list here, I'm gonna go with Fire Coming Out of a Monkey's Head by Gorillaz. Now, this song is laid out as a parable, and it tells a story, and it's really just a metaphor for the war on oil and the just kind of themes that are given. Demon Days follows this idea of humans, we destroy ourselves. We would be so much more of a successful race if we would just work together and stop being so prideful and take away these self-destructive tendencies, but we're not able to do so, and that's really what this song is telling you. So we have the strange folk, and they're mining in the mountain of Monkey because they want to become rich, and the monkey is showing signs of self-destructing, and they know this, and they continuously do this anyway. And now while they're doing this, at the foot of the mountain, we have the happy folk, and they're just really oblivious to what's going on. And what's crazy is that they can see it happening, yet they just won't open themselves up to the possibility of it. And that's what happens, and they just push the monkey a bit too far, and it erupts, and then that's it. The poem says, meanwhile, down in the town, the happy folks slept restlessly, their dreams invaded by shadowy figures digging away at their souls. Every day, people would wake and stare at the mountain. Why was it bringing darkness into their lives? And as the strange folk mined deeper and deeper into the mountain, holes began to appear, bringing with them a cold and bitter wind that chilled the very soul of the monkey. For the first time, the happy folk were fearful, for they knew that soon the monkey would stir from his deep sleep. And then came a sound. Distant at first, but it grew into cacophony, so immense that it could be heard far away in space. There were no screams. There was no time. The mountain called Monkey had spoken. There was only fire. And then, nothing. Number 9, I'm gonna have to go with Broken by Freddie Gibbs. Obviously, broken being the idea of Freddie speaking on A, being broke, and B, coming from a quote-unquote broken home from his divorce of his parents, and just the way that he feels his parents have failed him personally. And I guess this changed my perspective on life just because my parents have always been happy together. They've always parented me together, and they've done a great job. And I feel like with Freddie, you can really see the consequences of a broken home and of being broke and just living this lifestyle. And Freddie lays it out so earnestly. He does a great job rhyming over this beat. I love how he sounds like he's bouncing off each wall slowly and just floating in the space in between. He calls out his dad for his hypocrisy and his problems with the police and how it has a relationship with Freddie and his life of crime personally. I love the line, and I'm a crook and you crooked, that's all we got in common. He chucked the deuce to my mama, so much for family bonding. I love the double entendre between Freddie is a crook and he's crooked, saying that he used to be a crook, as in it's the past tense of the word. And then he chucked the deuce to my mama, so much for family bonding is essentially they got divorced and their family is now broken. Number 8, I'm going to go with Emotionless by Drake off the Scorpion. I love that Drake lays out this idea of no matter how many followers, how many friends you have on social media, it has no effect on how lonely you feel in real life. Drake discusses struggles with fans, struggles with other people on social media, and I love how he lays out these scenarios of different people who are struggling and their self-destructive tendencies are rooted in their social media use. And I feel like it's becoming more and more of a topic of how terrible social media is for you, but I think that Drake laying out these honest scenarios and these real life down-to-earth ideas really put it into perspective for me, and this song alone actually changed the way that I look at and use social media. I know a girl whose one goal was to visit Rome, and she finally got to Rome, and all she did was post pictures for people at home because all that mattered was impressing everybody she's known. I know another girl that's crying out for help, but her latest caption is "Leave me alone." I know another girl happily married until she puts down her phone. I know a girl that saves pictures from places she's flown to post later and make it look like she's still on the go. And then he ends it off as, "Look at the way we live." And I really think that this is just an excuse to say why he wasn't, making the birth of his son Adonis public. And that's really not true. But I think that he did a good job of at least giving a possible reason as to why he did so. I don't remember what number we're at. I think this is number 7. I'm going to go with Good News by Mac Miller. Good news, good news, good news. That's all they want to hear. Man, what a great message for just kids now that live in this, again, social media age, it really has changed social interaction, and I think that Mac does a great job laying it out as one of the things that has been detrimental to young people. It's crazy because it's this idea, and everybody's experienced this, where people want to support you when you're up, but then, you're struggling and they kind of just disappear, and it's kind of like that awkward interaction where they ask you how you're doing, and you're just like, it's been a rough couple weeks, man, and they're just like, oh. But then he says, when I'm flying, it makes him so uncomfortable, as in to say that, when Mac dies, 100 people post, oh, we love Mac Miller, I'm so sad this happened, I wish I could have done more. But you didn't, though. You didn't, and you had chances. You could have supported him, and then now he's gone, and you want to act like, you didn't mean for this to happen, but at the end of the day, you didn't do anything. It's even more heartbreaking when you think about the fact that he recorded this essentially knowing he was going to pass away early. And he has experienced this awkward social interaction that I just described with multiple people clearly, and he knew he was going to die. He knew that was how people were going to react, and it kind of just gives this bad taste in your mouth when you see people saying R.I.P. Mac Miller. With number 6, I'm going to go with my first out of the 2 Kendrick Lamar songs on the list, and that's going to be How Much a Dollar Costs. I love how the scenario Kendrick lays out is him essentially meeting the Savior, the person who was so selfless to help us get a spot in heaven, to literally die so that we could live. And he asked Kendrick for nothing but $1, and he won't give it up. And Kendrick is angry about this because he worked so hard for his fame. He worked so hard to have the luxury cars and the money. And he can't understand the begging. But then when he realizes, when God gives this idea to him, he realizes I should be this way because that's what God would want me to do. The one thing I'll say I don't totally like is that he's really essentially blaming this feeling on his success, and I only think that's partly true. But again, I think that the overall message is something everybody needs to hear, because I think that while we might not be able to relate to this while we're on this earth, everybody is going to have to face God at some point. And to me, I've always felt like every time you have a chance to do a good deed, every time you have a chance to let the Spirit move you and to do this for other people, and you don't, you, in a way, are facing God. And I always felt like Kendrick was trying to communicate that or convey that through this song. But it's hard to tell because it's so abstract, and that's also what I love about it. Number 5 is going to be Wicked Games by The Weeknd. How do I wrap up what this song really made me feel? I think if I could summarize it in one sentence, it would be the fact that not all people that are famous, not all people that have money, not all people that are sleeping with a different girl every night are happy about it. And it's just further proof that being materialistic does not bring happiness. Being materialistic is not the proper way to live. And I think that through all of Abel's music, he really does a good job illustrating that, because he's miserable on this song. He is just in so much pain sleeping with girls. Like, it's a very strange theme, but it's just so clear to you once you realize it. And I've always felt like this song was so potent for that reason, and the theme is just so cohesive throughout all of his projects and trilogy. He's trying to escape this lifestyle. He doesn't want to be addicted to it, yet he just is. He falls back into it every time, and again, his delivery is just so heartbroken, so desperate to be out of it. But the lyrics don't reflect that, and the contrast there is just so deep. So number 4, I got 2 more songs that regard faith here, and this is going to be a really strange choice, but I'm going to go with Pray by Sam Smith. So let me unpack this a little bit. Obviously, many of you who watch my channel know I grew up as a conservative Christian, still am, and so I've always just been, practicing the habit of when I struggle, I pray to God, and I use Him to lean on when I'm struggling and really, just needing wisdom. And it's worked for most of my life. I feel like God has really helped me through a lot of my darkest times, and God has always just been my rock. But for people that haven't had that didn't grow up with that, I've always kind of wondered, what is their relationship towards this? Does it make them uncomfortable? And I've since realized, heard of this song, obviously this is just my introduction to it, it's not a deep understanding, but really, there is a time in everybody's life where they pray because they're desperate. And that was just such a crazy realization for me, because I've only heard stuff, at least up to that point when I heard it in 2017, that people who don't, believe in God, they only scorn the name. But It's crazy to me that there's a point where people can be so desperate that they'll even pray to God that they don't believe in. Because again, for me, when I'm so desperate like that, it's kind of comforting in a way knowing that I have that higher power on my side. For people that don't, I think that would be really hard to live like that. So the last three are incredibly hard to rank for me. Number 3, I'm going to go with Runaway by Kanye West. And this video is titled 10 Songs That Changed My Perspective on Life, but this song is really a song that changed my perspective on Kanye, which I guess could still fit under that umbrella because Kanye is a big part of my life. But again, some of these themes with The Weeknd are present here. I think that Kanye knows he's narcissistic, he knows he's obnoxious, and he doesn't always want to be, but he can't stop himself. There's so much pain here, so much regret, so much woe. Yet he doesn't say that he's going to stop. He's literally telling people to run away, get away from me, don't be part of this because I'm not going to be able to stop. He's having a toast for the scumbags, he's having a toast for the douchebags because he's one of them. And he's so apologetic, but I love how in the back half of the song when his other half of his personality breaks out, Pusha T comes in with this incredibly cold-blooded verse. But then the last 3 minutes is just Kanye being all over the place. He doesn't know what to do, he's desperate. And I feel like the vocoder part, that's really where he illustrates it without even using lyrics. And I've probably shed more tears to this song than any other song, which is why I think it deserves to be this high on the list. And these two, they changed my life in really different ways, or at least changed my perspective in really different ways. So I feel like the fact that one of them is faith-based and one of them is not is the reason that I'm going to put Fear by Kendrick Lamar second. Because faith-based songs really do change my perspective, because I don't consider faith as a huge part of hip-hop, or at least I didn't before, but I realized that it is. And this changed my life and my perspective because I kind of fully understood just how different people's interpretations of God's word are in different parts of the world, in different cultures, and Fear is easily the best example I've ever heard of that. So Kendrick lays out this beautiful beat. The Alchemist did a great job producing this song, and he starts off with this voicemail from Carl Duckworth. And he says, Kendrick, I know you've been struggling, I know you feel lonely, and then he cites scripture about how black people are cursed, and that's why he's feeling this way. And then he goes through the song, which is beautiful, by the way, and the outro of the voicemail says that all of the racism, all of the terrible things that have happened to minorities is the divine act of God. I don't feel like I can explain this as well as Anthony Fantano can, so I'm going to put in a clip by him. Cue the clip.
It's on the same track where I think Kendrick's faith, his belief in God, takes the ugliest turn that it has on any project that he's released so far. Right at the very end of the song Fear, where we hear a voicemail from his cousin Carl, which he alludes to on the song Yah. And if you look at this voicemail, it's pretty interesting. Referencing Deuteronomy, Carl makes the case that Kendrick is unhappy, he's struggling, he's unsure of things because he's kind of drifted away from God's light. He's not living up to the commandments, the statutes, the laws set by God, pretty much the Christian God. He then makes the case that black people, Hispanic people, and Native American people are the true children of Israel, which seems harmless on its face. That's fine. But then that is channeled into every injustice over the course of history being interpreted as a punishment by God because these groups of people have drifted away from the word of God. And this is pretty much presented without comment. I don't see Kendrick criticizing this idea. It's just kind of thrown out there. Again, on the song Yah, where Kendrick references this call, references this voicemail, from the few things he says about it, I'm led to believe that he thinks that there's at least some truth to it. Now, let me just say before I go much further, I outright disagree with this on every level.
And I agree with Anthony, I flat out disagree with this, but let me explain why it changed my perspective. So the reason why I personally don't believe in this theory is because the scriptures that they're quoting, the ideas that they're providing, are out of context, tiny scriptures from the Old Testament. It's well known among Christians that the New Testament is the new law. It applies now. A lot of the themes, a lot of the laws in the Old Testament in the Bible, sure, well, everything that God says does apply in some manner. If you take what he says out of context, you're gonna go to some crazy places in your mind. And what people need to understand is that Jesus, his sacrifice in the Bible, was so that things like this wouldn't happen to people. So to say that God is willing this to happen is pretty ignorant in my opinion, because it's devaluing the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, because that is the entire reason that this can't be possible. And to say that is essentially, to me, really just devaluing that. And that's why I don't agree with it, but I can see why Kendrick believes it. And that's not me understating the struggle and the pain that black people have felt, because it's terrible what racism has done to our race. It really is. And heck, with all that's happened to Kendrick and his people, I don't blame him for thinking that. But again, it's not true, and that's why I feel that way. But again, it gave me perspective, and it gave me an understanding of exactly what goes on in these people's heads and how people interpret God's word. And I've really just kind of treaded lightly around people that are different from me in terms of Christianity, at least because of this. And it's also the reason why this album made this wall. Now, the last song, this made #1 on a different list I made this week, but it's going to be Last Call by Kanye West. And it's really because of this theme of self-empowerment. I find myself thinking a lot of times that other people will try and fail at things, and I'll come in and try to do the same thing, and they'll be like, well, you can't do it, we tried and failed and it wouldn't work. But I always find myself thinking, well, it will work when I do it because I'm doing it, I'm in control, and I can make it work. And I feel like I really got that attitude from Kanye West, and Last Call is a great summarization of how he used that attitude to propel himself to fame. And listening to Kanye's music has really changed just the way I carry myself, because I have this level of confidence because I think of the things that I've personally accomplished in my life, and I realize, hey, if I want to try this, I can do it because I'm me, I'm the hardest worker in the room, and I have the most aptitude in the room. And again, I think I learned that from Kanye. If you listen to his lyrics in this song, the way he raps, and the story at the end, I think that's all indicative of that attitude. And really, that's what I look to gain from hip-hop, is self-empowerment. And I really feel like it's changed just me and my personality because I have this, this attitude now. And some people will say that's a bad thing. To me, I think it's made me a stronger person, and the success that I get in the future will be because of that. With that said, this has been a longer video than I was expecting because I really care about these topics. That's going to be the top 10 songs that changed my perspective on life, in no order, of course. Which I do want to say that disclaimer now as well. This was not an order, that's just the order I chose to present them to you guys. Let me know if you want to see a part 2 on this, because I actually had 30 songs that I considered. And again, I just want to give one more reminder. Let me know if you want to see me react to a certain album in the comments. Let me know if you like this kind of content, or any recommendations for different kind of content I can make, something you would want to hear me talk about, any certain specific topics. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Give the video a like if you liked, let me know in the comments. Please subscribe. Yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for joining me. I sincerely hope you'll join me next time. Happy listening.